Every nation has its patron. A patron is a historic figure, usually related to religion, who in times of peril, necessity, or thankfulness, people call upon for protection and help. Saint David is the patron of Wales, Saint Andrew of Scotland, Saint Patrick of Ireland, and the patron of England is Saint George. So great is the importance attributed to Saint George in England that the English flag is also known as the flag of Saint George. Very little is known about Saint George's life. The oral tradition is relatively big, but historical evidence is scarce.
6 things you probably didn't know about St. George. 1. St. George was not English.
Neither set foot in English soil. St. George is hailed as the patron of England, but he was actually born 2,000 miles away from England. He lived in the region of Cappadocia in modern-day Turkey, and he died in Lydda, also known as Lod, in modern-day Israel in the province of Palestine in 303 AD. It is believed that his tomb is located in Lod and became the center of Christian pilgrimage.
2. He was a martyr.
Like many other of the Christian saints, St. George was described as a martyr after he died for his Christian faith. It is believed that in 303 AD, the Roman Emperor Diocletian ordered that all Christians, a growing sect in that time and victims of reiterated persecution, were forced to renounce their faith and make sacrifices for pagan gods. All soldiers declared to be Christians were expelled from the army, and noble Christians were to have all of their possessions confiscated, among other things. George, which was himself a Roman soldier and part of a wealthy Christian family, refused to obey the emperor's orders. More than that, he declared himself a Christian in front of all his fellow soldiers. Diocletian at first tried to convince him with offers of wealth and power. But when he refused, he was long tortured and beheaded on April 23, 303 AD.
3. The dragon was added later.
The earliest legend featuring St. George as a dragon slayer dates to the 11th century. Says the story that there was a large, stagnant and smelly pond just outside the city of Sasint in the north of Africa. In this pond there lived the dragon, and whenever the dragon breathed upon a person or animal, they died on the spot. At first, the dragon killed the animals on the surroundings, but later it started to attack the people. The only choice for the people of Sasint was to come to terms with the dragon. They agreed to give one person a month in sacrifice as long as the dragon would leave the rest of the people in peace. The king of Sasint decreed that the names of all the people of the city should be scratched in pieces of pottery and put in a large urn. Every month, one piece of pottery would be taken out of the urn, and that person would be given to the dragon. In that way, men and women, both rich or poor, were chosen to be fed to the evil beast. One day, the name of the person which came out of the urn was the princess, the king's daughter. So, the broken-hearted king ordered his beloved daughter to be prepared to the sacrifice. As they were on their way to the sacrifice place, a young Roman soldier crossed the way. His name was George, and he was a Christian from Cappadocia, in Turkey. He demanded to know why such a beautiful woman looked so sad. When he knew about the whole situation, George offered to slay the dragon if, in exchange, the king and the whole city would convert to the Christian faith. The people replied he wouldn't stand a chance against such a powerful creature. But George was determined to save the princess, and on he went. When the dragon attacked his opponent, George wounded the dragon with his spear. After, he drew his sword and finally managed to kill the dragon. George freed the princess from her bonds and returned to the city. and then the people knew that from that day on they could live safe. After that, the whole kingdom became Christians, thanks to the courage of the soldier George. The scholars say that the myth is probably a metaphor about the paganism being replaced by Christianism, or maybe an adaptation of the story of Perseus saving Princess Andromeda from the beast of the ocean.
4. The early legends about St. George were censored.
The early Christians were known for exaggerating the tortures endured by their martyrs. That happened so much in the 5th century that the Pope Gelasius I forbade these stories to be told to avoid mockery.
5. George is still associated to one of England's greatest honors.
King Edward III is considered the founder of the Order of the Garter in the Eltham Palace in 1348. To this day, the cross of St. George appears in the Garter badge, and his image is dependent of the Garter chain. The Order of the Garter is the highest order of chivalry in the country, and the Queen, Elizabeth II, is at the helm as sovereign of the Garter.
6. England is not the only place to celebrate St. George.
St. George is really an international saint. England is not the only place which claims him as a patron. In fact, the land of the Queen shares him with Genoa, Catalonia, and Portugal. But in the Middle Ages, St. George was regarded as one of the 14 Holy Helpers. The Holy Helpers was a group of saints people turned to for assistance when they needed help. St. George is also the patron of other things, including soldiers, armorers, farmers, and sufferers of the plague of syphilis.